This is Keep Up. I'm your host, Cynthia Dill. It's Thursday, February 12th, 2026. I'm in my Cape Elizabeth studio. Good to be back and go Team USA. I hope everyone's enjoying the Olympics as much as I am. It certainly helps that I'm still basking in the glow of a trip to Italy I took this past summer. So it's just extra special to be watching the Olympics that are taking place in Italy. And go Team USA. Too bad about the Patriots. But oh well. This podcast is going to be about, another reason why I'm no longer a Democrat. And by that, I mean the latest focus on ranked choice voting here in the state of Maine and Eliot Cutler, the disgraced gubernatorial candidate who was found for the third time, to be in violation of probation. And the story is just incredible. And Jonathan Bush, and why I gave $250 to my neighbor, Jonathan Bush, who's running for governor here in the state, and some friendly, neighborly advice for his campaign to win over the hood. And by that, I mean the motherhood, the swing voters that are going to determine who will be Maine's next governor. Okay, so first, a lot of people think that the only reason I left the Democratic Party is because of the gender ideology that I always talk about because it's so important. But there are other reasons. There's a lot of reasons because when it comes down to it, it's really the policies that are creating so much of the chaos, I think, and the unnecessary suffering of a lot of people. And I just don't see Maine in a good place now. And there's a lot of policies that the Democrats support that I no longer support. One of them is ranked choice voting. And ranked choice voting may recall, came on the heels of the 2010 election when here in the state there was essentially a three-way gubernatorial race, and then hero Eliot Cutler, the independent, lost to Republican firebrand Paul LePage, who says, proudly that he was Donald Trump before Donald Trump. Eliot Cutler lost by less than 10,000 votes as a independent. And so there was a kind of a reaction by Democrats that, oh, the only way we're ever going to be able to not have a spoiler like Eliot Cutler is if we implement this experiment ranked choice voting that was used in a handful of groovy places. I think it was like San Francisco, maybe in Manhattan. So it sounded like a good idea at the time because people were at first freaked out by Paul LePage. It was a sort of a rupture in the the glass here in Maine. Things got shaken up. There was a lot of turbulence, not nearly as much as there is at the federal level with Donald Trump, but it was sort of a precursor, maybe canary in the coal mine sort of thing for what was to come in terms of the Republican kind of renovation and takeover of the country. So ranked choice voting, I supported it. But here's the thing. So we passed it because there was disappointment that we didn't have Eliot Cutler for governor. That's the bottom line. Is we passed ranked choice voting as a way to sort of feel better about, and sort of say, sorry, Eliot, that you didn't get it, but this is what we did for you, so that next time, you can get it. And all the people who voted for Eliot Cutler just sort of went from that campaign to the campaign for ranked choice voting, and got it passed, right? Despite massive partisan opposition and lawsuits and challenges and constitutional challenges, we have ranked choice voting. And the thing is that, well, with the exception perhaps in the 2nd Congressional District, where it made a huge difference if you were the Republican who lost to Jared Golden during, using ranked choice voting. That was like one example where you could see why the Republicans wouldn't like it and why the winner, thinks it's great. But other than that, it hasn't really done much except expand the bureaucracy of the Secretary of State's office and make voting more complicated, right? Um, and now, of course, Eliot Cutler is facing his 3rd probation violation because he was found, as everybody knows, he was arrested on, like, he had child porn, like thousands and thousands of images of child porn. Felony, right? I think he was supposed to spend 4 years in jail, but he got out after, like, 9 months because of good behavior. And then since then has been found, to be in violation of probation. But this latest incident, it's it's almost heartbreaking. It's so pathetic, but it's so funny. I mean, I'm sorry, but so Elliot Cutler, he's addicted to porn is the bottom line. He even admits it in the article. For 65 years, he's had this problem. So he's not allowed to have the internet. So he goes to the hotel, the DoubleTree Hotel in South Portland, Maine, and he buys a DVD player and he hooks it up and he goes to Walmart and buys DVDs of porn and puts them in a paper bag and and does whatever you do, when you have a brown paper bag full of porn and you're staying at the DoubleTree in South Portland. It's nothing I've ever done. So I would imagine, I don't even want to imagine. But so he's walking around the lobby of the hotel, and guess who happens to be staying there? Like the special unit on, like, I don't know, porn crimes for the state police. I mean, there was seriously a special investigations unit of state police staying at the hotel who see Elliot Cutler with a brown paper bag, and he's got some of the DVDs apparently in his hand. So he puts them behind his back. And the cops, to their credit, the state police, thankfully, were alert and, willing to. I'm sure they were probably hoping to check into their hotel and maybe, grab a beer and watch the game, but they had to bust Eliot Cutler there. And then this is the reporting from the Portland Press Herald today. I just have to read this because according to court paperwork, members of the state police special victims unit were staying at the DoubleTree in South Portland on Monday evening, unrelated business. While at the hotel, one of the officers recognized Cutler, age 79, of Brooklyn. Investigators reported seeing Cutler carrying a brown paper bag and a stack of DVD cases. Maine State Police Special Agent Jason Bosco said he greeted Cutler and identified himself as a police officer, at which point Cutler hid the items behind his back. This is where it really, Cutler began crying loudly when Bosco asked him about the items. Cutler was carrying empty DVD cases with covers and discs removed, as well as a bag that contained the covers, various nude, this, that, and the thing. Then this is, okay, quote, Mr. Cutler then started to weep and said, "Yes, I messed up. Please don't do this. Please don't do this," Bosco wrote in his report. Cutler told Bosco that he was attempting to destroy the DVDs, the report says, and said he can't help himself. He's had this problem for 65 years. Okay, so, I mean, this is the guy that was supposed to be literally like the knight in shining armor that was going to save us, in the state of Maine from ourselves because he was just so fucking brilliant and smart and independent, and that's why we passed ranked choice voting. And now the guy, he's had this problem for 65 years. That means it included while he was running for governor, and it included while we were all working our asses off to get ranked choice voting passed for him. So, like, at the same day that the press is reporting that Eliot Cutler is weeping and admitting that he's a porn addict and has been for 65 years and gets caught in this just almost pathetic. You couldn't even make this up, that the state police were staying at the hotel and he has a paper bag and he tries to hide it behind his back. It's just so crazy. And he's got his DVD plugged in the room upstairs. That's the time that the Democrats decide in Augusta they're going to expand ranked choice voting. They're going to expand it. So now we're going to even include in this big bureaucracy that we have that has to administer these programs, these bloated programs like clean elections. That's another policy that I was behind and now I'm against because the Democrats have spoiled it without passing guardrails to make it so that it actually is clean elections, because now everybody who runs using taxpayer money, so-called clean candidates, can have a leadership PAC and raise money privately. And so we, the taxpayers, are paying for this gigantic bureaucracy, right? All the reporting, all it's a whole office building. I'm sure there's a staff of like 15, 20 people. All the legislative candidates who get all this money, it's a lot of money. And then meanwhile, they can fundraise and be influenced just as much, right? Like, oh, okay, so you wrote a check to my leadership PAC and not my campaign. Oh, therefore I'm not beholden to you. Give me a break. So ranked choice voting, it's not a good program. We did it for Eliot Cutler. Why are the Democrats now expanding ranked choice voting? What does that have to do with anyone's life? Is there anyone you know that has said, oh my God, I wish my legislators would be spending hours and hours and hours fighting over whether we should expand ranked choice voting to the gubernatorial races, even though we already have an opinion from the Supreme Court that says it's unconstitutional. The legislature now wants to take up the court's time for another advisory opinion. All this time, all these resources, right? The legislators gave themselves a raise last session. So now they're up there spending our time, our taxpayer dollars, solving problems that we don't have, like ranked choice voting at a time when, read the room, Eliot Cutler's in jail because he's a porn addict. Like, maybe the system, maybe it was a good thing we didn't have ranked choice voting, you know? But Eliot Cutler is in jail. So I guess what goes around comes around, I guess, like they say, karma's a bitch. 65 years is a long time to be a porn addict and finally get caught, literally like with a brown paper bag in a hotel room. We talk about a fall from grace. Oh my God. It's sad in so many respects, especially mostly for his family, because there's a lot of people in his family that are affected by this that are, I'm saddened for, because it must be very tragic for a family. So I'm sorry about that. But who lives in Eliot Cutler's house now? Right down the street from me, and this isn't broadcast a lot. And I'm sorry that I have to be the one to break the news if you know this, but Jonathan Bush, who's running for governor, I'm sure he didn't know anything about Eliot Cutler's like weird, criminal proclivity to possess child porn when he bought the house. I'm pretty sure about that. Who knew, right? Nobody knew. But he did buy the house, and now he's running for governor. And I had the opportunity of meeting him the other night, really for the first time. Even though he's lived in that house now for 4, I think maybe 5, could be 6 years. I'm not sure. It's been a while. But he just recently announced his run for governor and has kind of been on my radar for that reason, and appeared at a really great local political event here in town at the Spurwink Rod and Gun Club. And I attended with my friend Stephanie Anderson, who's the former Cumberland County DA for many, many, many years, and another friend. And Jonathan came in, and I was very impressed. Except for the fact that he lives my advice to him is really, you got to either like do a seance and rid that place of all the bad juju, burn it to the ground, or maybe move. But that's just one small piece of advice. Kidding aside, I did think that there was a lot there. Jonathan Bush has a very interesting story. And what I liked about him is he was somewhat, if you're a West Wing fan, somewhat Josiah Bartlett-like, although, of course, in the West Wing, the president was a moderate Democrat, and Jonathan Bush appears to be a moderate Republican, by all indications. He's dyed-in-the-wool blue blood Republican. He's a Bush, right? The George W. H.W. Um, Billy. um, he's charismatic. He's got 7 kids, which is, I think, uh, you know, 7's my favorite number, but that's a lot of kids, and I think it says something about a person if you have a mixed family. So it's 5 kids, I think, from two different marriages. Uh, the older kids, 2 boys and 3 girls, appear in the campaign video, and they kinda have a little twinkle in their eye as if they're in on the joke, and I kinda like the fact that the family seems to have a sense of humor. It means a lot to me, and it's telling that these kids, it looks to me like they're in their 20s, would do a video for their father because, I mean, whatever. Just look at, the soccer family over in England. Beckham, that's not a good relationship, father-son there. So, with Jonathan Bush, the family dynamic seems to be good, although there is the scuttlebutt about the first marriage ending in allegations of domestic violence. I'm not I'm not convinced that that's a disqualifying story because I don't know enough about it, and I understand since then that this first wife has come out and supported Jonathan's candidacy. So it sounds perhaps like it was the dregs of a bad divorce that perhaps they've worked it out. If they've worked it out, that's fine with me, is what I'm saying, because I don't, I'm not going to, that's not my litmus test. My litmus test for candidates for any office going forward in this election is that they have to agree that there is a biological difference between men and women, and will work to repeal gender identity laws because they discriminate against women and harm kids. Uh, Gender ideology, something I talk about all the time. The idea that sex can change is completely it's wackadoodle. And unless you believe that women are real and that men can't become women, I'm not going to vote for you. So I told that to Jonathan Bush, and he said, well, basically said something like, well, it's not a no-brainer. I don't even have to think about that. Of course, good. I'm glad. But other than that, I thought his life story was very interesting. He was a medic, and according to his anecdotes, had some pretty bloody work, running into, you know, disasters to save people. Essentially, he was a soldier, served in a platoon with others. He's a guy's guy kind of guy. Also established a successful business in healthcare, so he knows. I mean, healthcare business it's the fastest growing employer. It's the biggest part of the budget. Like, if you know how the healthcare system works, that's you have a significant advantage, if you're gonna be running the government or any organization because, healthcare is just it impacts our economy, our families, everything. So he's got a lot going. He the story is, the personal story is good. You know, he has a history of, public service, good ideals, and good aspirations for the country. But I thought where he kind of fell short was what he's going to do because he kind of had a list of things that were kind of like admin, like he's going to run an audit. He's going to cut taxes by $1 billion, but not yet, sure what the details are. I mean, sure, great. You're going to cut taxes by $1 billion, something like $2,000 per family. I mean, that's a nice campaign promise, but unless you tell me how it's going to be done, it's not that. I can't get too excited about it. I can't get too excited about an audit, frankly. I mean, I think it's a good idea, but it's not like, yes, yes, finally an audit. Um, and the other things too are like, make it business friendly and deregulate. Good, good, good. But those things are good things to check off in the box. But respectfully, I do think even if a campaign wants to focus, as it should on the economy, that there are cultural issues that are going to really get that swing voter, that critical mass needed to win an election over the threshold. Some of these cultural issues are are equally important to voters. And it's not because the voters themselves are so emotional. It's that the voters are sentient beings and feel strongly about, you know, issues that really impact the health and well-being of their families. I mean, yes, of course, pocketbook issues matter, but issues around, parental rights and issues around, allowing minors to consent to experimental drugs and surgery really matters to a lot of people, including a lot of mothers. So this is where the, advice from the hood comes from. That's a little pun. Not only am I in Jonathan's neighborhood, as I joke, on the Pacific side of Shore Road, but, I'm from the motherhood, and, um, we care and we want a candidate to state clearly as part of their platform that, that they are going to work on day one to repeal gender identity laws, because it's the gender identity laws, right? Adopting gender identity as a protected status in the Maine Human Rights Act is the foundation of all of our troubles when it comes to this gender ideology and gender so-called affirming care. So we need to repeal gender identity laws and all of their implications, that this the law that says a an individual can self-identify as either a male or female and partake in, the private spaces, the sports teams, the bathrooms as they want. The bottom line is, any man at any time can identify as a woman and access female-only spaces and play on female teams, and it's not fair. It discriminates against women. It violates our rights, our dignity, our safety, our privacy, and it really matters. So, I need candidates like Jonathan Bush to, sure, cut, cut $1 billion from the budget. Please do. Do the audit, and also save our kids from this voodoo. Okay? Finally, we hear it's been in the Wall Street Journal like almost every day this week, this issue of gender ideology just permeating in society, public school teachers being compelled by the government to speak things that are not true, to use pronouns that don't apply, to keep facts from parents. This is compelled state speech. It's not a viol we see editorials finally on the experimentation and lack of evidence when it comes to gender medicine, and holding the, this complex, it's like the industrial complex, but it's the gender medicine, industrial complex. It's consumer driven, it's profit driven, it's voodoo quackery. And, in today's Wall Street Journal, there's an op-ed written by a detransitioner who is suing, the butchers who cut off her breasts in the name of care. So many of these patients have comorbidities, right? They're depressed. They have all kinds of issues, not just the fact that they are disassociating their soul and their body. That's one thing that is now being often treated with radical, irreversible medical procedures. Kids are being sterilized. Kids are being, operated on. Irreversible, weird surgeries are taking place, and the government is paying for it. And in Maine, we have shield laws that render the purveyors of this voodoo medicine, this experimental medicine that the Academy of Plastic Surgeons just said is not based, on any evidence that it does any good. The purveyors of this medicine are immune from suit in Maine. So, Jonathan Bush, you need to add to your platform repealing gender identity laws, certainly removing immunity from the purveyors of so-called gender affirming care, and that is defined in law to mean distributing puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones to minors without their parents' consent. Even I think we should have in Maine a law that bans any kind of this gender medicine that relies on this W Paths outfit, it should be banned in the state of Maine. That's what I want the next governor to do. That's what I want Jonathan Bush to do. After he has his seance and gets rid of all the Eliot Cutler juju in his nice house, where I hope his family is enjoying the view. And I think that's it. Go Team USA. I'll see you soon. And this is Cynthia Dale signing off. Take care.